You're in Emsolation.
Well, hello there and welcome to what I hope is a life-changing edition of Emsolation. And who'd have thought I'd be saying that sentence about this show? My name is Em Rossiano. I'm a writer, a singer, a stand-up comedian, a maximalist power queen, a neurodivergent magic brain, and a podcaster. And I am also in hectic perimenopause. And it is a topic that has completely consumed my life. I've done a stand-up show about it where I touched on it briefly, but then I started talking about it online and realized a lot of you also felt overwhelmed and like you're being snowed under with this sudden lack of estrogen that we're really not warned about, are we? And about a year ago, I decided to take control of my health and fitness. And it has been truly a long but ultimately rewarding, I'm going to say the word, journey. I'm so sorry. I put a video out last week because, I'd come off of a gym session and I realized I'd gotten much stronger and I wanted to extend the hand of, just like, when you feel like you're drowning in a dark sea and all of a sudden a manicured finger reaches out to you. I'm Ariana Grande holding the nail of Cynthia Erivo to you. I just thought, I wish someone had have done this for me a year ago. I asked you all what you wanted to know about how I'd gotten strong and what I'd changed about, certain aspects of my life. And I was inundated. It was a tsunami. There was over 800 questions more. I mean, I'm just guessing because I stopped counting at about 700. But I realized this is such a huge thing affecting my community especially. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to, instead of sitting there with my Instagram stories and recording 4 days worth, I'll turn it into a podcast. And then as I was laying awake at 2 a.m., as I'm prone to do, I thought, no, I need to get someone on who is a true expert in this field because I'm always a little bit reluctant to share health and fitness things because everybody is different. And also that's not really my area of expertise. So then I thought about the people that I'd looked to over my last year of turning my life around because of the clusterfuck that is perimenopause. And I thought about a woman by the name of Dr. Stacy Sims. I'd heard her on numerous bro health podcasts. And I want to say to you, it was painful. She was extraordinary, like this glorious, glittery light, having to come up against these men who kept trying to get her to make her years of extensive research validate their incorrect opinions. Oh my God, when I tell you. And I thought, no, I need to get her to you all. I need her on my podcast. So we chased her down and when we explained what we were trying to do and that we wanted to allow women and AFAB who wouldn't normally get an audience with someone like Dr. Stacy Sims, she was all for it. She is the absolute authority on women's health, exercise, and nutrition. And when I say she knows her stuff, I mean, she's a PhD. She's got the science, the research. She's done over 100 peer-reviewed studies. Like she is in the trenches. And she also is in perimenopause herself, which I think is one of the most essential things I can tell you. She is there with us. She's a scientist, a researcher, an author, and a total game changer in the world of women's physiology. Her work has completely flipped the script on all the outdated just eat less and exercise more advice that we've been getting our whole lives. And she's all about training with your body, not against it, especially, now hear me when I say this, when it comes to perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Her work specializes in how our body's needs change and what we need to do with our training when we are in perimenopause and menopause. She is our girl, let me tell you. She's written the groundbreaking books Raw and Next Level. She gave an incredible TED Talk called Women Are Not Small Men.
And why is it that women feel a little bit less tolerant to the heat right before their period starts? Oh my gosh, did I just say that word, period? And why is it that after 2 days of really intense training, feel a little bit flat? So I started asking these questions.
Who'd have thought? That went viral and completely changed the landscape of the way people view how women train at different times of their lives. She turned things around for me. I just popped in a couple changes that she had suggested, and my training and my life became better. So what you're about to hear is my long chat with her. I tried to cover as many of your questions as I could. I'm hoping that you're going to walk away from this feeling empowered and ready to start making things better, because that's what it's about really in the end. So please enjoy my chat with the incredible Dr. Stacy Sims. Dr. Stacy, thank you so much for being here. I will warn you, I am in the midst of perimenopause. It's brutal. I feel, are you too? I'm not going to.
I'm right there with you, friend.
It's so nice because when I look you in the eye and say it's brutal, Dr. Stacy, and no one told me about it, and I just did it come? How did you discover perimenopause? Was it through your extensive studies, or was it when you were going through it?
I knew about it from working with Marcia Stefanik and the WHI, and we were a sub-study trying to quantify hot flashes. So I was very aware of it.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, can we figure out an aura through temperature or, some kind of precursor? So we're
an
doing some
aura,
really cool
as
work.
in like an aura.
As in like when you're taking core temperature, right before there's a spike and then a drop off, you'll see a perturbation in the temperature and then it goes, whoo. So we're watching for that.
Oh, I'd be off the charts. I'd be like hovering. Right. Yeah, you could do studies on my aura, I'll tell you right now. Yeah, okay.
So that's what we were finding, but we weren't able to, we had to end the study early because we weren't able to subjectify it. So objectively we could see it, but subjectively it was too late to do anything.
Oh, God. Great. Because the thing is, I get asked a lot, and all I knew about menopause really up until when I was kind of knocking on the door of it was that one day your period stopped. Like that was the extent of the education I got from my boomer mother and from the education system. And then when I started looking into perimenopause, I'm also ADHD autistic. So like my symptoms are threefold. The brain fog and the anxiety and depression and the mid-regulation is 0. But I'll go to the doctors and I think I'm in perimenopause and I'm like, can you do a test? And my doctor's like, nah, there's no test. Why isn't there a test for perimenopause? Because so many women are facing the medical misogyny of being told, no, you're depressed, here's an SSRI. Why isn't there a test, Dr. Stacy?
Because perimenopause is, if we think about puberty and how we have all these different hormonal changes and then, hey, your period comes, right? And we don't know exactly when that's going to come. Now we're on the other side where the hormones are going crazy and then everything stops. Because we have daily, almost hourly pulses of our hormones, we can't actually test it. We could see a trend over time if we were to start testing every 2 weeks when we were in our 30s and looking at the ratio of estrogen progesterone, we might have a better idea, but no one does that. And we can't really definitively say from a one point in time test. So they go by symptoms. But I always am like, you know what? If dudes had to go through this, it'd be a lot better than a symptom score.
If dudes had to go through this, there would be vending machines with prick tests, and you could do that. I know. Yeah. So what are the list of symptoms? Because they're just, the sexy symptom is, when I say sexy, hot flushes, or I've got a dry vagina. Like they're the two things that have been rolling around since the 80s, right? But it's so much more than that. I feel like people don't understand that estrogen is our testosterone. It is the battery acid. It is the lifeblood, and it pretty much infiltrates every single important operating system in our body. And then all of a sudden, our bodies are like, "Sus, bitch, no more."
Yeah.
That is mind-blowing. That's not the first thing you're taught as a girl and a woman. But what are some of the things besides the hot flashes that, like, when you say, what can we go to the doctors? A lot of my listeners want to be empowered to go to the doctors and back themselves in and go, nah, perimenopause, and here's why. What are we looking for?
So a lot of the internal kind of, you quantify it yourself going, something's not right, is undue fatigue, where you wake up and you're like, I could just keep sleeping for days and I don't know why.
But don't you think it's also that tired that you couldn't sleep away as well?
Yeah.
In your soul, in your bones. Yeah.
It's like really bad allergies merged with long COVID, merged with brain fog. And you're like, oh, what is going on? I just can't get on top of this. So you don't have motivation. You aren't inspired. You're kind of flat. It's a little bit of depression, but not full depression. That's one of the biggest symptoms. And then we look at body comp changes because so many women are like, I woke up squishy overnight. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any strength. I can't even open this jar of pickles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, all of a sudden we've lost a neural stimulus for strength. So it happens rather rapidly. And then we also have, like, what happened to me is I was a quote geriatric mother.
Same.
So yeah. So I had my daughter when I was 38.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying it was postpartum depression, but actually I think it was probably early perimenopause, where you're having all sorts of depression, anxiety, craziness, and you're having undue temperature control, hot flashes, maybe not. Yeah. So all the things that can be early perimenopause, they put off as postpartum depression without even thinking, oh, wait, your age and you've just gone through all this hormone flux. Maybe it's kickstarted perimenopause. So yeah, there's so many symptoms and it depends on the woman. So I'm always like, okay, well, tell me how you used to feel.
Yes.
How did you feel maybe even 3 months ago with sleep, training, mood, energy? And now let's see where you are now. And most people that are in the throes of perimenopause are like, you know what? 3 months ago, I could get up at 5:30. I could go training. I could go to my business meetings. I could come home. I could deal with the kids. And now I'm like, F it. I can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to fight through the day and I can't wait to go to bed.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
You can. It's all right because we're talking about it.
It's just, and I have all these women. I just recently toured a stand-up show about it as well. And I look out into the crowd of all these shiny eyes just looking back at me, and I want to help so many women in AFAB who are going through this, but we're of this generation where our mothers didn't tell us anything, and I'm turning to medical science. And I tried to find a study on how HRT or MRT, MHT, MHT,
Yep.
yeah, I know it's changed. It's had a rebrand. How MHT and my ADHD medication interact, and there's no studies.
There's nothing.
I'm a guinea pig in 2025.
I know.
And I said to my doctor, what do we do? And he's like, oh, let's just see what happens. YOLO. But I think that speaks to, you gave an incredible TED talk, and you've been such a I hope someone has given you a big hug and said thank you for being a catalyst for really significant change in the way everybody's just kind of acknowledging now because of you. Hey, women are not small men. Which seems like an obvious statement, but it took you getting on stage and also you're so jacked, like you're Linda Hamilton. You're like, you're my goal. Like I'm getting there. Like I'm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love
like,
it.
Yeah, thanks, babes. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm training hard. But I think you that TED talk. Did you realize that you were gonna? I mean, you ruffled a lot of feathers, which I love. The science bros were like, "Who does she think she is?" Did you realize that statement that seems so obvious, women are not small men? Did you realize the reverberations it was going to have? Did you know going in, you're like, I'm gonna blow some things up here?
No, I had in the sports world, yeah, because I had launched a company and that was part of our women's line tagline, and I got so much pushback. And I still have PTSD from some of the comments. So I don't read comments.
Don't.
Even on the TED Talk, I'm like, no comments.
No, don't. Me neither.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's a bad thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But after I gave that, and I'm standing in the the auditorium.
Yeah.
Not the theater, but the outside auditorium. There was this queue of women that went out the door.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh my God, women are not small men. It's brilliant. And I was like, but it just is. Like, I would wake students up with saying, you know what? Women aren't small men. And you're in a medical program and you need to realize that.
Mm-hmm. But you rocked my world. And I consider myself somebody who is, I'm very much across medical misogyny because I wasn't diagnosed as autistic or ADHD till I was in my 40s because I didn't, that symptom recognition bias with the stereotypical ADHD is that 10-year-old is Bart Simpson, and I was an exhausted 42-year-old woman. So medical misogyny and I are intimate bedfellows. But in terms of the way that impacts negatively women's mental health, physical health, it makes me wild, Dr. Stacy. So many women are being turned away or gaslit about their health and therefore not taking control of it because they are being treated like small men.
I know. It makes me mad.
It does? How does it not consume you?
It does, and I just got to park it because it makes me mad when I see it happening in the younger generation still.
Yes.
Right? And wait a second. You're talking to a 16-year-old as if she's a 16-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And the only thing you want to do is put her on an oral contraceptive pill. No, that's not right.
I'm going through that
Not
now with my 18 and 23-year-old. So like, what do you say to that?
I get upset parents saying, "Hey, we've just come back from a doctor. What can I do? What can I say?" So I have almost a rote sheet where I'm like, "Here's the literature that shows that an OC is not good for creating endocrine health. There's other options. If you are talking about endometriosis, PCOS, or irregular cycles, you want
Yes.
to investigate that. When did they first start their period? Because if they started it before the age of 13, they should be regular by now. But if they started after the age of 13, they'll be irregular till about 18 or 19. So it's just normal because of the way that the egg matures, and we have lengthening of our follicular phase. We have so many different changes. So if you're worried about those things, then investigate those things. If you're worried about skin, then we can go to a dermatologist.
Yeah.
So, like, you go to a GP and they're undereducated because that's the medical system, not by fault of the doctor, but by fault of the medical system. So, if you go in armed, not as Dr. Google, but as someone who's researched and said, you know what, my kid is having issues with severe cramping and heavy bleeding, I think we need to investigate a little bit more on, heavy bleeding or menorrhagia. What are my options? What are her options? She's only 16, so there's lots of things to be able to open the conversation. And I'm finding that doctors are open to that
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah. Yes. I
Unless
find
you get
there's
one of the older dudes. and then
exactly.
you're like,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then they're not.
Yeah, that's been my very, very intimate experience. But we found a nice young gay man who is just, he knows me now. He's like, okay, what studies have you read this week? And I'm like, well,
Let me
let's
tell
chat. Thank you for your hundreds of peer-reviewed studies too. Stacey's a rock star in the study areas. Don't worry about that. She's out there doing it. You're doing the work, and I see you and I appreciate you.
Thanks.
I have recently kind of undergone, I was an elite athlete up until I was about 19. And I was a world junior hurdler and had always been high-level gym, high-level, everything I did, overachieving little shit, ADHD, eldest child, type A personality, daughter of an immigrant. You get the idea.
Yeah.
So I've always, my dad's also very mesomorphic. So, when I go to train, I get muscular really quick. But I have this large, amazing community that have seen me training, and they're like, how have you done it? What are you doing? And I always try to preface it with, look, I'm naturally inclined to quick gains when I go back and focus on my strength training. But I really let it all go. I was 18 kilos heavier about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then I started having all the issues that perimenopause bring up, and I went to my endocrinologist. And she said to me, your bone density is really bad. And I didn't know that I was in such kind of early menopause essentially. But I didn't know that my body had been leaching estrogen from my bones, or, my bones had becoming like they were like chalk. And she said to me, I said, what can I do? And she said, get strong. My endocrinologist said to me, and she's young, she's amazing. She said, go to the gym and get strong. You want to age strong. And that flipped a switch in me because I, like you, came up through the 90s and I was a muscular, nuggety, athletic woman. So it wasn't really, that wasn't okay.
It wasn't okay when we were growing up. You had to look like Kate Moss.
Kate Moss. Yeah. We were told that Bridget Jones was overweight. You know what I mean?
I know.
I look back at the curvy women of the 90s and I'm like, girl, what?
I know.
Yeah. And that's why one of my favorite artists is Madonna, because she was like this short-haired, muscular Italian woman. And
Yes.
she was the person I saw in the public eye and was like, so I am okay. But yeah.
And Linda Hamilton.
Oh, Linda Hamilton, Terminator 2. Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah.
And then Demi Moore and G.I. Jane.
G.I. Jane. Totally. Made me want to shave my head and get a six-pack.
I know.
But I think the single biggest game changer for me over the perimenopause, I can't even say it without just having to stop for a moment, has been getting strong. And all these women have contacted me AFAB saying, how can I do it? And so instead of me answering it, this is why you're here, I wanted to give them an appointment with you. I wanted to talk to you about the way to train as a woman, but especially in terms of people who may have never done strength training before. Yeah. I'm someone who's done it through my whole life and I love it, but I really let it go because the pandemic here, we were on lockdown for 20 years and I had a baby and my body felt broken and I remember feeling like it's too much. I'm at the bottom of a massive hill and I can't even imagine the first step. And a lot of my community said they feel that way. So can you talk about the importance of strength training for perimenopausal women in AFAB? Why my endocrinologist said to me, get strong.
Get strong, yeah. So unfortunately, there's a sex difference where women will lose their muscle mass a lot faster and their fast twitch fibers.
Mm.
So that's what I said, like it feels like you can't
Mm.
open a jar of pickles because you've lost your strength so much. So we look at the basis of muscle strength and muscle development. It comes down to estrogen. So we look, estrogen's responsible for how fast our muscles contract.
Mm.
It's responsible for signaling muscle protein synthesis to build that lean mass.
Mm.
And it's also responsible for kind of maintaining bone and muscle and that whole like neuromuscular integrity.
Mm.
So when we start losing estrogen or we start having fluctuations of estrogen, I tell women, I'm like, look, we have to look at an external stress that's going to make our body respond the way estrogen used to help it respond.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get
Right.
it. Yep.
So if we look at exercise is an external positive stress. Initially, it breaks things down and causes all these crazy signals, but in a good way, because then your body's like, I know what that is. I need to build some more strength. I need to build some more muscle. I need to use more fat as a fuel. So it creates this adaptation. So if we look at strength training and the kind of strength training that women who are 35 plus should do, we're taking kind of a page out of the power based, like the power builders and
Mhm.
Olympic lifters,
Mhm.
where we're going really low reps and heavier loads
Mm.
because we don't want what we call metabolic response. So
Mhm.
that's when you go and do like 20 reps to fatigue and you're like, ooh, I feel that burn.
Yeah,
and your
like
heart
really
rate
light
comes up.
ones, and you're doing like what
Yeah.
we were told: don't lift too heavy, or you'll get
Yeah.
muscles. Oh no! Oh my
Oh,
god!
no.
Oh no!
So that's really just breaking down your muscles.
Yeah.
It can
Yes.
cause a little bit of strength, but not really.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at lifting those heavy loads with lower reps, it's all central nervous system. So we're now telling our nerves that we have to have a really fast nerve conduction down to that muscle.
Mhm.
We need to jump what we call the gap junction. So that's where we have the nerve conduct over to the muscle fibers. We have to jump that quickly. We have to stimulate a whole bunch of muscle fibers to contract. And we also have to have more muscle to actually contract.
Mm.
So we have a nervous system response that's telling the body to do this instead of estrogen.
Mhm.
So if we're lifting heavy, and it's relative, right? Because I don't want people who've never lifted before to go into the gym and try to do deadlifts and stuff. We want to progressively get there. So
Yep.
if you've never ever done any resistance training,
Yes. What
it
are we
could
doing
be-
for the woman who's listening to us now and
Yeah.
saying, "Okay, I hear you. I want to do this." How do they start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can start with body weight stuff. It could be
This is what I want to hear, because you know what? For a lot of people, and going to the gym's a bit intimidating when that's your first. When you're like, I haven't done this in ages, I can't imagine rocking into a gym. How can we crescendo? Yeah, the body weight stuff. That's great to know.
Yeah. Because when I look at this, and there's so many women who are in our age group and older who, we're afraid to lift weights. It's been very culturally
Totally.
no,
Yeah.
right? Because you won't look like a Moss.
Yeah.
Right. So it's scary. And a lot of women still feel intimidated. And we look at the gym culture and it doesn't help.
No.
Because if you go to one of the basic gyms like
Yeah.
Lifetime or something like that, you walk in and they direct women to the cardio,
The cardio equipment. Yeah. Yeah. Or the classes. Here's the
yeah.
spin class. Go to a spin class. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, where's the weights? Where's the weight platform? Show me.
Yeah.
Show me where I can do squats.
Here are the hammer strength equipment. No,
Yeah.
I want the lifting platform.
It's true.
Oh,
The
really?
misogyny, the internalized misogyny, I mean, it's still rife in the fitness. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tell women, I'm like, okay, if you've never done anything before, I don't
Yes.
want you going into that situation because you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel comfortable. You're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to go, oh, I'm just going to get on the elliptical machine, because
Yeah.
that's not what we're after.
Mm.
So we can start with body weight. We can add load to a backpack. So you can do stairs in your house or squats in your house with a backpack.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of online programs that are Learn to Lift, or you can find a small Zoom type interaction
Yeah.
with some personal trainers that will teach you
Yeah.
or film you and tell you how to move.
But even YouTube, just for beginners, even if you just put in, I might pick your brain later, or get my producer to, if you've got any recommendations. I don't know if you have any.
I've got two good ones.
Okay, you want to say it now?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's a woman called Loretta Hogg, and she does Learn to Lift from body weight into going into the gym.
Yes, Loretta. Write it down, everyone. Loretta. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Yeah.
And then we have Haley Babcock with Haley Happens Fitness that goes from the gym to barbell.
Oh, okay. This is amazing. You've
Yeah.
really answered my questions here because I had over 800 responses to, hey, do you want to know how to do it? And the main one was, I don't even know where to start, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we also have Betty Rocker, who's all about staying in your house and learning how to do resistance training and maybe a little bit of high intensity work. So
Yes.
there's options for everyone,
Okay.
right?
I love that.
Yeah.
So for people who are feeling intimidated in the gym, they can start at home with the body weight stuff. In terms of nutrition, it's a really hard topic. I'm someone who has kind of overcome an ED. I had binge eating disorder for most of my life being an athlete. And also, I realized it came down to being neurodivergent and not being able to kind of settle until the night and when all the adrenaline leaves my body and I'm able to finally feel my appetite. But
Yeah.
I think eating's such a tricky topic for women and AFAB in general because we were teenagers in the 90s and
Yes.
were seeing what the ideal body type was supposedly. So I find it hard to talk about it because so many of us have a form of disordered eating because of the way we grew up.
Right. Right.
How do you tackle women and AFAB people's nutrition from a beginner's aspect? Like when I heard you say women should be eating something within half an hour of waking up, that was life-changing, Dr. Stacy.
Great. Do you do it now?
I do. I really do. And I had not been eating until about midday.
Oh gosh.
For most of, I know you don't, the little things that I know are so, because you're so smart and you've studied it, are so obvious to you. Even people like me, and I consider myself of moderate intelligence, when you said that can you explain why we need to eat within half an hour of waking up? Women specifically?
Yeah, women specifically. So it's our hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus is the area in our brain that's responsible for our hormone health for the most part, including thyroid, as well as our appetite control. So our appetite hormones. And when we wake up naturally, we have a little bit of a spike of cortisol about a half an hour after wake up. If you have an alarm clock, that spike is even higher because all of a sudden you're jolted out of sleep. So the hypothalamus is fully aware that we're up and ready to go. If we delay food intake, then that cortisol peak is going to stay and it's going to create muscle breakdown. So if we have something like 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt, so around
That's
I don't
all.
know, 15 grams of protein.
Yep.
Hypothalamus gets amino acids because the blood circulates right through the brain and you're getting more stuff in the blood. The brain picks up the fact that you have some food coming in. It's like, okay, we can drop the cortisol. We know that we have some nutrition coming in.
Yeah.
Let's get on with the day.
And the cortisol makes us feel stressed and flustered, right? We're up in heightened fight or
Definitely.
flight. Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't need
A
any
little
more
bit
of that.
of cortisol is fine.
Yeah.
Right? We need it through the day.
Yeah.
That's how we all of a sudden stop and you know we're alert. But when we keep having really high peaks, then our baseline increases.
Yeah.
And when we're in perimenopause, we're already in what we call a sympathetic drive. So we're in that tired but wired state.
Yeah.
So we need to look at all the things we can do to bring that tired but wired down to, okay, I can relax. I can let my nervous system relax a little bit so that I can sleep better. So when we start talking about nutrition for women, because it is so polarized, it's like a cult because people will say, I'm vegan, I'm paleo, I'm keto.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but what I want people to pull back is there are 2 essential things for one, preventing a lot of body composition change when we're in perimenopause, and 2, improving our brain health, which we want for longevity.
Yeah.
It's our gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to help our gut? That's the first thing. If we're looking at eating a wide variety of fruit and veg and also having protein with every meal, then that's how we really solidify gut diversity. And why I say it's really important for perimenopause is we see about 3 to 4 years before that one point in time, menopause, when our periods stop, we have an incredible reduction in our diversity. And that has to do with our sex hormones reducing, and sex hormones, you know, the ratio is changing, and our gut bugs actually work with those hormones. So when they disappear,
Great.
our gut bugs disappear.
Great.
So
Not
we need to
good. It's
increase
really
gut
good for us,
diversity.
isn't it? Not good. It's
Yeah.
great.
So that's the very first thing, regardless of what you believe for nutrition. It's like, let's bring it down to gut.
Yeah.
And then we also look at, okay, gut for our overall health and our brain health and being able to sleep well and get tired out of that tired but wired, but we also want to maintain our lean mass. So then that protein comes really important.
So talk about protein in terms of, for me, because I'm ADHD and find it very hard to remember to, do all I see people doing batch cooking and I'm like, I that will never be me.
No.
But if I'm boiling, say, 5 eggs and I put them in the fridge and I just in the mornings when I don't have time, if I'm cracking one of those eggs within half an hour of waking up and I'm having that with my with a protein powder, is that enough for me to
start?
Yeah, to start.
Sure.
And then I like to train.
Yep.
And then you taught me that I need to eat within, 45 minutes after training.
Yep.
Because I wouldn't have. I would have just gone through until dinner and then eaten like a day's worth of food at dinner time.
Yep.
That's what I was doing for most of my life. So when I'm going, we're talking to beginners, we're getting up, we're making sure we're putting something in our body so our brain doesn't panic within half an hour. And then I'm going to go, so most people probably will go to the gym in the morning. When I'm going to the gym, I'm just trying to break it down so it's kind of simple. If I'm at the gym now and I'm feeling a bit confident, am I doing some cardio and some strength training? Is that okay? Or should I be mixing it up? You know what I'm trying to help the person listening going, I'm already feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I have this conversation a lot with people who feel overwhelmed. There's so much information out there.
There really
what
is.
do I do?
Yeah.
So for anyone who's starting.
Yeah, take us through a typical day. That'll be great.
Right. So for anyone who's starting, I say for the first 3 months, I just want you to focus on strength training and maybe some jump training for your bones.
Yes. I love jump training. I'm on the skipping rope now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I want you to forget about all the HIIT stuff, the sit stuff, the walking up a hill with weight vests, all the stuff that you hear. It's like, we just want to focus.
Yeah.
So if we're focusing on strength training and we're focusing on getting strong, we need to eat. Because
this is so good to hear you say. Oh my God.
If we don't eat, we don't build muscle.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the gym and you haven't eaten and you delay your food intake afterwards, or not even to the gym, you go to do your strength training and you haven't eaten and then you delay your food intake, all you're doing is breaking down muscle.
Really? What, are you like essentially canceling the workout out?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Because you go in first thing in the morning, you don't have any food, the hypothalamus is stressed, that cortisol is up like we talked about.
Yeah.
During exercise, your body produces adrenaline and cortisol, which are breakdown hormones, which you need for muscle contraction and fuel for your muscles. But you need food after that to bring it down, to drop it.
Okay.
Otherwise, the body stays in that breakdown state for a longer period of time. And the first thing that goes isn't fat, it's lean mass. Because lean mass is so much more metabolically active than fat. Your body's like, wait, I don't have food coming in. I'm going to take it from this tissue that needs a lot of energy. So that's the first thing that goes is lean mass. So
this
women
just goes
who
against
get up
everything we've been told.
Right. So that's why people are like, oh, I do fasted training or I do
Yes.
intermittent fasting and I go do my workout fasted. I'm like, well, why? Because you end up doing, you have to train 3 or 4 times harder than you should to get gains, because you're not actually fueling or allowing your body to adapt well.
Yeah.
You're just promoting a breakdown state.
Because I heard you say something on the Huberman Lab that actually I had to stop driving. You just the calorie conversation, because through the era of Weight Watchers and our mothers and Jane Fonda and all the diets that the cabbage the obsessive calorie counting was occurring when I was an athlete. I used to do the same thing because I had to come in at race weight, and they would caliper test my fat levels in front of all the dudes. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
But you dismissed. You're like, the calorie conversation is don't have it. Is that?
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I am. And I say that, you look at general pop and sedentary overweight people, sure, watching calories comes in, but it's not the calories per se, it's the quality of the food.
Yes.
Right? And so I say, look, 2,000 calories, what is that? Are you doing 2,000 calories of all this fast, ultra processed stuff? where you're probably still going to be hungry, or are you doing 2,000 calories of whole foods where you're having lots of fiber for your gut microbiome, good protein for your lean mass, you're having some good fats for your nervous system, you're also enjoying part of life where you might have whiskey or dark chocolate,
Yeah.
right? So when we talk about calories, it's a rough estimation from the lab that started when they were looking at how many calories bare minimum do our soldiers need in World War One,
Our
so
men
that,
soldiers, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
men soldiers,
Yeah.
so that we can keep them healthy, but we don't have a lot of money for all the rations. So the whole idea of calories in food came from a bare minimum.
Oh my God.
So
Oh
when
my
we look
God.
at things like
Because
our
don't you feel like
RDA,
calories have been weaponized against women?
absolutely.
Yes. Because
Yes.
a lot of my audience will be sitting here going, oh my God, all I do when I pick up food, when I'm trying to get fit is look at the calories.
Calories. Yeah.
Because that's just what we've been told, especially
Yeah.
about you're blowing minds. Okay. Okay. Keep
And
going. Yeah.
even like the net carb thing that came out that's on packaging,
Yeah.
that's crap too. Like
God.
that's marketing. That's not science.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are, oh, I only had two grams of net carb. I was like, what do you mean 2 grams of net carb?
I
You
wouldn't even
had
know what that
fiber.
means. Yeah. I don't.
Great, but what does that mean? Is
Yeah.
that sugar alcohol? Because
Yeah.
that's not good for you either. Yeah. So when we're talking about calories, I want people to focus one on the quality and the timing of their food. Because if we eat with our circadian rhythm, so we eat within a half an hour, we wake up, we eat regularly throughout the day.
How many times throughout the day would you suggest?
I
I know
at
it's
least
hard
3
because you're
meals.
generalizing,
It's
but
hard.
yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I get it. But just as a
Yeah.
rough guide.
Yeah. So I usually tell people 3 meals with around palm and a half size serving of protein at each meal.
Yeah.
And so that can be, it doesn't have to be all animal product.
Yeah,
You can
what
look
could
at,
it be? What else? What are other good sources of protein?
you can do like tempeh, you can do edamame, nuts, seeds, beans, even green peas are really high in protein.
Okay.
So it's a wide variety. That's why I tell people wide variety of foods, because you're going to get your protein.
Because with neurodivergent people, and especially autistic people, and I'm one of these people, I have a really small tolerance for certain foods. Like I have my safe foods, and oftentimes those safe foods involve a lot of cheese, a lot of bread, a lot of white pasta.
Mhm.
So especially neurodivergent women, when we want to try and in perimenopause and we want to try and eat better, we have a lot of sensory issues around that. So I guess
Mhm.
I don't know if you've come across us in your you have. What would you
Mhm.
say to
Yeah.
women like me I really struggle with fruit. I like even just talking about it makes me yeah.
Yeah. I have a texture thing where I'm like, no avocados or anything slimy.
Yeah,
Like I can't.
yeah. No
Yeah.
sliminess
Yeah.
here too. So how could
No
people,
slime.
with with my brain type and neurodivergent people kind of get around that? Because the food thing's hard. It's hard when you have a
Yeah.
very small window of things you can tolerate to eat.
Yeah. So if we look at something like white pasta,
Yeah.
you can get pulse pasta that's white pasta.
Mm-hmm.
So it's made with chickpeas,
Yep.
and it cooks and tastes just like white
Same.
pasta.
Okay.
But you have 3 times the amount of protein in it.
Ah, pulse pasta. Okay, good to know. Good
Yep.
to know. Yeah, all right.
So if we look at what our safe foods are, we can find exact replicas that have high protein in it.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. So we just really make a honest list of what we're eating, and then just look for just Google, like look up the alternatives. Just do a little bit of research on. I've never even thought. You're right. I should do that. That's such an easy win. Yeah.
And then and so I mean, even things like your different sauces you may or may not put on. So maybe you have a red sauce, or maybe you have an Alfredo sauce. There's ways of boosting the protein content in those sauces that doesn't change the texture or the flavor.
How do
You
we
can
do
use
that?
So you can use unflavored protein powders.
Ah,
I'm huge.
really? You
advocate
can
for
add those to cooking?
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never thought. All this stuff, Stacey's going, yeah, babe. It's so
No,
obvious what's going
it,
on.
it's something that's, really known in my circles. But when you start talking outside, it's like you can add a scoop of unflavored protein powder to your overnight oats, and then all of a sudden you have 3 times the amount of protein.
Because my autistic
You can
son
put it to
refuses to eat.
eggs.
Oh my God, I can put the unflavored protein powder in his food.
Yeah.
Oh
You
my
don't even
God.
notice.
Oh my God. Because he just won't
Yeah.
eat meat. He won't eat, he just
Oh,
hates the taste and texture of it.
yeah.
Write it down. Write it down. You're changing lives, babes. You don't even realize. But poor Stacey Sims, she's like, yeah, water's wet. I mean, what do you want me to say? But
That's good.
it's just not out there for us, especially it's not accessible information because in my mind, Dr. Stacey, protein powder is for Arnold Schwarzenegger, not for the 45-year-old mother of 3 going to the gym 4 times a week. Do you know what I
it's
mean?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's so I'm very conscious of the types of protein powders that are out there because you can get the flavored ones that have all sorts of flow agents and fillers and shit like that in there.
Mm.
But if we're looking at a clean, unflavored, either pea isolate or a whey protein isolate, super high in protein, no additives, nothing like that. They are so versatile.
Yeah, right.
And you don't even have to use a full serving. You can sprinkle stuff in. I mean, I do a mac and cheese for my daughter where I use nutritional yeast flakes that taste like Parmesan cheese, but it's B vitamins. And I mix that with plain whey isolate.
Yeah.
And then you cook the pasta in half the density of water. So it ends up being creamy as it cooks. And then I put that in and stir it. And she thinks, oh, wow, it's mac and cheese.
Oh, your sneaky cooking would be the best. You
yeah.
need to do a sneaky cooking cookbook for the people like me that have children that won't eat anything good for them. That would be very added because you're not busy enough. Add that to your list, please.
Okay. I'll add it to the list.
Thank you so much. So I guess, so we've covered off the food. We're going to be eating, 3 meals. But and what about little snacks in between?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
It's okay to have little snacky snacks.
Of course.
Okay, great. Terrific. You're not getting rid of our snacks.
No.
What are we
As long
snacking
as-
on? Tell me.
Oh, yeah. It depends on if you're like, I need a sweet snack or a savory snack.
Both. I mean, both. Yeah.
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 One of the easiest things to do is you take a trail mix or a gorp, or I don't know what they call it in Australia.
Trail
but,
mix. Yeah.
Yeah, trail
Yeah.
mix. Throw it in a food processor, blend it up, take it out, little bite-sized bits, and there you have protein, some fiber, good flavor.
Yeah.
And if you need a caffeine hit, throw in some espresso powder as it whirls around.
Espresso
And
powder.
you're like,
Yes. I
Yep.
love that. I heard you say that you make yourself a little concoction of double espresso protein powder and sweetened almond milk, and you put it. I'm going to start doing this. And you put it in the fridge overnight, and you have that in the morning before you train. So, is it okay to have caffeine on an empty tummy, or does the protein and the sweetened almond milk kind of negate the caffeine?
It negates it.
Oh, great.
If you're sensitive to caffeine,
Yes.
then you want to watch it.
Yeah.
Like maybe you have half calf,
Yeah, not double espresso.
right? Or just the protein powder and the almond milk, but I'm all about the double espresso.
Oh, same babes.
So.
I mean, I feel like you and I are of a similar species. You have a much bigger brain, but I feel like
Nah,
I see.
I know
you.
a lot about one thing, but don't ask me about computers.
So I know a lot about drag race, but don't ask me about sports science. It's
Okay.
Yeah, great. This is why you're here. Amazing. Can I ask you why do our bodies change so much in perimenopause? Why did I wake up with a completely different body? What? And why is it so hard to change?
Because of our hormones. Because,
Estrogen.
like if we
Estrogen.
think about, I'll bring it back to puberty, right?
Yep.
And I say that because the age of my daughter and really wanting her to be confident in her new body. We have complete biomechanical changes.
Mhm.
Like our hips widen, center of gravity changes, our shoulders widen. We put on boobs, we put on belly fat. All these things are generated by hormone exposure.
Mm.
So when we stop having that hormone exposure, every system of the body is affected.
Mm-hmm.
So we lose the impetus for building bone. We lose the impetus for building lean mass. We have a disconnect between the way our muscles respond to exercise and free fatty acids. So now our liver comes in the conversation and says, hey, I got to store these somewhere and the skeletal muscle doesn't want it. So let's store it as visceral fat.
Mm.
So if we look at using exercise to negate that, like I was saying, we use an external stress, then we start having all these adaptations that don't require our hormones. So now the liver's like, oh, wait a second, I need those fatty acids to go into the muscle. And the muscle's like, yeah, I'll use those while I'm contracting, but I'm also going to store them in the cells where it needs to be. And then we start having a continuous conversation between our skeletal muscle and our body fat, where the skeletal muscle is like, yeah, we don't need to store so much of you. We actually need to use you. So there's positive conversations. We start looking at the type of exercise, the intensity, how often, all of those things. Because yes, our body completely changes. We have that hormone interaction right down to gut microbiome, like I was saying. Because when we first release hormones, they have one action initially, but then they get sent to the liver and wrapped up with sex hormone binding globulin. And then they get shot into the intestines where our little gut bugs unbind them, shoot them back out to work again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I said. When we stop having our sex hormones, we lose those gut bugs.
They're not doing that. Yeah, the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what have you seen be the most effective kind of lifestyle change? Have you seen it work is my question. Like, do you see positive results? Because that's the thing I got back is no matter what I do, I can't get my body back to what it was, or I can't get a change in the composition. Like, are you actually seeing this help women when they adapt the strength training and changing their nutrition? And
Yep.
You are?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
And I see it when I go to the States.
Yeah.
Because people will just rock up to you and tell you, hey, this has worked for me. I love this.
I mean,
And then
I'm
you
here
go,
on a whole podcast saying, hey, your stuff worked for me. So, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts small because, like, I keep trying to tell people it's not a training block for 6 weeks. This is something we want to start as early as we can in
Yes.
perimenopause to carry us through into postmenopause so that when we're 80, 90, maybe even 100 years old, we're still very vibrant and have a good
Yes.
quality of life.
Aging strong. And that's what I was going to ask you. You've seen it. How do you make it a habit? Because, again, people get bored, but I managed to tie it to, like, I made it part of my routine. It wasn't something I was ever going to, I tied it to morning coffee. I'd leave the house to go and get my morning coffee, and I now do that, after the gym. But I had to tie it to something. And being ADHD, I do a different thing every time I'm in the gym because I just get bored.
Yeah.
But how do you're right, shifting that attitude of I'm not on a program as a goal to look like a certain way in 6 months. This is so I am a strong older woman. Like How do you
change that mentality?
Yeah.
Yeah. So women are often denied their own time, right? When you say, I don't have time to exercise.
Already.
I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. I'm like, why don't you have time for yourself?
Yeah.
Right. You have a family. Yes, I understand that. You have a job. Yes, I understand that. But you're going to be no good to anybody if you don't take time for yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be 2 hours a day. And people get overwhelmed with the idea, oh, I have to go to the gym and I put in a 90-minute session. It's like, no. You can get up and you can have a half an hour. And maybe in that half an hour, you're taking 10 minutes of like complete silence just to center yourself. And then 20 minutes, you're doing heavy deadlifts in your garage, or maybe you're doing squats with a backpack. You're doing some kind of movement that's going to then give you that sense of accomplishment, but also it's going to send that positive growth hormone and testosterone response you get after exercise so that you feel good. So if you start getting that positive and go, I need this for myself. I'm taking time for myself so that I'm better for me. And if I'm better for me, I can be better in all the other things that are demanding my time.
Yeah. That's so powerful to just give everybody permission who is listening to us now to schedule that time in and ferociously fucking protect it. Like schedule it like it's a meeting, because my babe, your life depends on it. And that's not being dramatic. Your life depends on you prioritizing that time. And I did that. And that was and I announced it to my family. I said, if you want me to be able to continue on and show up for you all, and I honestly feel like I'm going to have a nervous breakdown, you cannot, the gym has to happen. My training in some capacity, every day I have to move my body, because if I'm not in my body, I'm in my mind. And I said to them, you cannot ask me to make it smaller. You can't minimize it. You can't try and get me to schedule around it. I need you to help me protect it. And they were so on board with it. But I think society makes us as mothers especially feel so guilty for prioritizing ourselves that we just get we squeeze our well-being around our commitments.
Yeah.
So
I had to fight it with my husband because I would go and I would do stuff in the morning. And there were times you come back and he's like, why are you prioritizing exercise over your daughter? I'm like, I am not. I'm not putting that. It's not exercise. It's mental health space. You saw how bad I was. And this is part of my coping mechanism to be able to not get into severe depression.
Yeah.
To be able to keep moving through the day and being productive.
Yeah.
Don't pull that guilt on me because that's not fair.
Yes, girl. I mean, I'm surprised he's still alive after saying that to you. I respect your self-restraint.
Well, we've come to blows sometimes. Not just
Of
kidding.
course. No, don't even. I mean, marriage is hard. We're not here to sit here saying long-term relationships are easy. They're not. They're fucking hard. But I also find one of the benefits of where we are in our life now is the veil drops. Like we just start, I can't not tell the truth now. Like my tolerance for dickhead behavior has gone.
Oh, yeah. I have no filter for that now. I don't have time for it.
Same girl. Same.
Life's too busy.
Yeah.
And there's too many things to be done.
Yeah.
If you are not straight up, you're not calling a spade, I'm going to call you out on it because I don't have time for it.
Same. And I live for that. Now, before I let you go, because I know you've got a lot on, I would like you to speak directly to maybe the woman that comes to you and she's sitting in front of you and just saying, Dr. Stacy, I've lost control of myself, of my life. I don't know where to start or where to begin because, I mean, honestly, that was me 18 months ago. And when women contact me, my heart, I'm just like, I understand where you are and I can help pull you out of that in any way, which is why I've chased you down.
Yeah.
What would you say to that woman, AFAB person who desperately wants to make a change but just feels like they are just, the pit?
Overwhelmed.
Yeah. Where do we start? What's the – yes.
Yeah. So I tell people there are 3 to 4 key pillars.
Yeah.
Where we look.
I love these, the pillars.
So we have mindfulness and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the parasympathetic. We have nutrition, physical activity. So those are our big 3 to 4. Mm-hmm. So if you separate mindfulness and sleep. And I ask them, what is the biggest concern right now? Like, what is the biggest concern? Are you not sleeping? Are you tired but wired? Are you worried about your nutrition? Are you wanting to move more? So we find which of those we want to focus on for the first 3 to 4 weeks. And that's the only thing we're focusing on. We're only focusing on getting up, having 10 minutes of breath work or mindfulness, and then maybe we do some stretching. So I want you to start to get into that habit and protecting your time. And we're just doing that. Mm-hmm. Right. So we find out what is it that we want. And they'll find that if they focus on that one thing of really centering, bringing themselves down, doing some movement, it actually improves sleep. Once we start improving sleep, then everything gets better.
So true. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Sleep is just so important. God.
Yeah. A lot of times I'll get I just want to look better, because we've lost our body, right? Yeah. And I don't feel like myself in my body. I want to look better. I'm like, no, you want to feel better and you want to be strong. So first, let's put the physical activity and movement patterns, and then we'll change the nutrition. But it's step by step because we're not in this tight training block. These are things we want to do to move through life feeling good, getting energized, becoming empowered. And then when we're 80, we can be like Train with Joan.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You're so right. And especially with ADHD is we do have that all or nothing mentality. It's like if we can't do it all, we'll do nothing. And I've found over the last year, I've been able to focus on it's carving out the time for myself that I need to make a habit, not so much the exercise. And secondly, I've changed. I don't say, I have to go to the gym. I say, I get to go to the gym. Just that little shift of I get to go and get strong now. I get to make sure I'm going to be, a kick-ass 70, 80-year-old woman. I get to set an amazing example for my 2 daughters who have seen me take control of my reproductive health of my body in my mid-40s. And as a result, they have both gone back to the gym and they are both training again, having not trained, because we are so powerful for our kids to see us prioritizing ourselves. Then our daughters especially will learn to do that when they get to our age. But you're so right. It's just to everybody listening now, and Dr. Stacy, I feel like I just wish I could give you a hug, although I'm not really a hugger, but I would hug you.
Virtual hug.
You're worth it. You are totally worth this time and investment. If you're there and you got tears in your eyes and you say, I'm just saying to you, my babes, all of you said to me, how did you start? You just start. You just start and you do one day and then you get to the end of the day and then you go, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then you do it tomorrow. Isn't it? It's like a slow, and then all of a sudden you look back over a year, which I've done, and gone, oh shit, look at how strong I am. Look how much better I feel. Yeah. Dr. Stacy, you never, ever stop doing what you're doing. I know you've got a podcast coming soon, so we'll, we'll do all the plugs
I'll
for
let
that.
you know when all that comes out. Yeah.
Please do.
Because we're tired of bro science.
I'm so tired of it. When you were on one of the particular podcasts, the way the man was speaking to you, I wanted to reach through and just be like, and he was questioning a few of the things you were saying. I'm like, girl, she has done, like, she's the PhD of PhD. She's a doctor. Like, come on. But no, I'm looking forward to you being in that space and being able to send people to you. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your work. And I don't know what we'd do without you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been super fun.
Good. Thanks. Hi, gang. Jump scare, outfit change. I like to keep you on your toes. Look, I hope you found that chat as enlightening as I did. I want to thank Dr. Stacy Sims, Noe in Stacy, as Ben says to me every 30 seconds, for being so generous with her time and her brain. When I tell you I delivered the best of the best, you can find her on Instagram at Dr. Stacy Sims. You can watch her speech, the incredible TED Talk, Women Are Not Small Men. You can get her books Raw and Next Level. Ben's going to link everything in the show notes, don't worry. But what we didn't get to in the chat is some of the questions you all had for me. So coming up next in the sealed section, I'm going to be addressing about 10 of the 800 or so questions that came in specifically to my last year of health and fitness. I'm not going to say the word journey. Triggered! Straight Idol, pointy end of the season. Oh! So if you're not a subscriber to Emsolation Extra, I think now is the perfect time. If you want to know what I've done over the last year to turn things around as best as I can. I'm working with a tired car and the red light came on and we refurbed her. Is she perfect? No. But is she functioning? Yes. Could we drive her to, say, New South Wales? Possibly with a stopover and a mechanic on board. This analogy is now out of control. So that's what's coming up next. You can subscribe. We have currently a free 7-day trial. So you'll be able to access that episode for free and then hopefully just decide to hang around and listen to the hundreds of other episodes on offer. How do people subscribe?
Emsolation.supercast.com.
You heard the man. So that's what's next. Thank you very much for being here and we'll chat soon.